What I'm going to do in this video is try to very quickly take you through the process of wiring up one of the demo lessons called Arduino Blink, which is an introductory lesson when using an Arduino. So in order to do that, we're going to need a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to need is an Arduino Uno. The second thing we're going to need is a breadboard. A breadboard allows us to prototype without actually having to solder together any wires. You can see it's made up of a whole lot of holes, and what happens is the jumper wires will have a plug on the end which plug into those holes, and so it makes it very easy to prototype. We're also going to need a couple of jumper wires, just two. We're going to need a 220 ohm resistor, and we're going to need an LED. So we've got our Arduino Uno, which is a microprocessor on it. We've got our breadboard, got jumper wires, a 220 ohm resistor, and an LED. So now let's get started. I'm going to run from the ground port of the Uno. You can see that they're all labelled, and so I'm plugging one of my jumper leads into the port labelled GND on the Uno, and then I'm going to run that to the negative row. You can see the breadboard has a negative row across the top of the breadboard. And so by doing that, what that means is that entire row now becomes grounded with the Arduino. And so that means I can run multiple resistors and multiple jumper leads out of that whole row, and they'll all be grounded with the Arduino. I'm going to take my resistor and I'm going to run that from the ground row to one of my vertical rows. So on my breadboard, not only is the ground row all connected, but the vertical rows are independently connected. So that means that first row there, which is labelled number 30, or the first row here, which is labelled number 1, is all connected together. So I'm going to run from my negative and then into row 30, which means that I've now got my circuit running from ground to my breadboard, the negative row, then from the negative row into row 30. Because the negative end of the LED is the short end, I'm going to make sure the short end is plugged into row 30, and I'm going to plug the long end into row 29 of my breadboard. Just like that. It doesn't matter which number row you're plugging them into, it's just easy to use two consecutive rows. Then I'm going to complete the circuit by going from the positive leg of the LED, so anywhere in row 29, and I'm going to run that back to the Arduino Uno. And so that means I'm going to run out of ground into the breadboard, through the resistor, through the LED, and then back to the Arduino through the grey wire. And we're going to plug it into the port which is labelled number 13. So that's digital port number 13. Once we've got that, that's our circuit that's required for the Blink project. And so now we're going to take that across to our computer, plug it into a USB, and actually code that circuit to Blink. Alright, now that we've created our circuit, we're going to need to take that circuit and actually add some code. So in order to do that, we're going to need to connect it to a computer. So I've got my USB port, USB cable, which is already plugged into the computer. I'm going to connect that to my Uno. You'll see it flashes as it starts up. And then I'm going to go to the IDE that we're going to use. Here on my screen at the moment, you can see the Codebender IDE. And so the Codebender IDE has loaded, and I've just gone to edu.codebender.cc. And you'll see that the demo program which loads is actually the Blink program. So this is the program that we're going to edit and compile and then upload to our board. So you can, first of all, you need to confirm that the board you have connected is actually in the drop-down. So you can see at the moment mine says Arduino Uno, and when you pull down the COM ports, it will show you what COM ports things are connected on. Generally, the Uno, since it was the last thing we plugged in, is going to be the highest COM port. I've also already installed the plugin for Codebender, so if you haven't done that, you'll probably have a message across here saying you still need to install the plugin into Chrome in order to run Codebender. Once you've done that, in order to upload this code, you simply have to push on the arrow, which is going to then compile this code, which means convert it into machine language, and then it's going to upload the machine language to the microprocessor, which is on the Uno. So I'll push the upload button. You'll see it's working currently. And then my Arduino flashes as the code uploads, and the program is now running on the Arduino Uno. So let's have a look at this code. So the first thing it's doing is it's setting up, or it's telling the microprocessor where the LED is plugged in. So it's plugged into port 13, which you'll remember earlier was the port on the Uno we plugged it into. There's two sections in the code. There's the setup section and the loop section. The setup section is what runs when the program is or the Uno is first turned on. And so what that's doing is it's saying that the LED pin, which was number 13, is going to be an output device. So this could be a microphone, it could be a camera. In this case, it's a LED, and an LED is an output device, and so therefore we're telling the microprocessor that the LED pin is being set up for output. And since we've set it up for output, when we come down to the loop section is what runs over and over on the microprocessor. It's going to write to that LED pin a high voltage, and so that's going to turn the LED on. Then it's delaying for 1 second, and then it's going to write a low voltage to the LED pin, and that turns the LED off. It delays for 1 second, and then because this is the loop section of code, this section of code happens over and over until we remove power. So if we want to change how quick this is blinking, you can see at the moment it's blinking once every 1 second. If I simply change my delay to say 500, that's going to change that to 500 milliseconds. If I then upload my new set of code, you'll see it goes flash, flash, flash while the code uploads. And now my LED is blinking twice as fast. In order to get a little bit more advanced, we can copy those 4 lines, paste them underneath, and we can start to make some flashing patterns. So at the moment I'm going to be on for half a second, off for half a second, then I'm going to do a slow flash. So I'll say turn on for 1 second and then turn off for 1 second. And so now if I upload, I'm going to change my blink pattern so that it blinks half a second and then a long second. So a short blink and a long blink. And so then you can start to get more advanced. And as you build up more and more LEDs along this prototyping board, you can start to flash in all sorts of different patterns.